I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're ready for the rest of the year. I have a very, very special guest today. Our Sanja Selak has joining me this morning to share her story of not just her life in Austria, but her life living abroad. Sanja, welcome to my YouTube channel, Making It in Austria.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Sanja was recommended to me through a dear friend, Gina, dear friend of Making It in Austria. She's been very, very supportive of this YouTube channel from the very beginning. It's been almost 3 years now since I started recording videos. And Sanja, let's start like we usually do with a short introduction, or long if you wish, of yourself and your business, professional and private pet to Austria.
Wow, it's like a long story. So to make it as short as possible, before coming to Austria, I moved quite a lot and spent my life in several different countries. I come from the same place actually as you, Adela. I lived in the ex-Yugoslavia, specifically in Sarajevo, at the time before the war started. And I left Sarajevo at the beginning of the war and first tried to settle and start my new life in Slovenia. Because I was a student at the time, I had to find a way how to not only like survive and support myself financially and so on, but also to be able to continue my studies. So I tried to do whatever jobs I could find, whatever ways to make ends met and meet. And then afterwards, after Slovenia, I moved to Canada, where I stayed for more than 10 years. And then again, I had to find a way how to start. So it was also quite a story how I managed there. After Canada, I spent some time in the US and then later 4.5 years in Spain. After Spain, finally, I made it to Austria in 2007. So I can say that I feel very much like a world citizen, having lived in so many different cultures and speaking also several languages, which make now the whole world somehow a home in some way.
Sanja, so that means you're about 15 years, more than 15 years in Austria.
Yes.
Yeah, so it could be called one of your homes or your home.
Yes, definitely. This is a home now. Exactly.
That's as for many of us who I have interviewed here, it's also a very nice home. So Austria is our home for sure. Sanja, I'm curious. I've heard great things that you've done professionally. And I'm really curious because before meeting you here, I met Gina and she said, "Oh, do you know all these great things that Sanja did?" And I said, "Unfortunately not." So then I went out and Googled you here and there, and I found so many great things that you did professionally. So can you share some of it? So what you feel comfortable sharing, or what you feel it's appropriate to share within this community?
How to explain it? Well, I was always interested in anything that was creative and that could bring something interesting to the world, so to say. On one side, I was a musician, so I was studying music, yeah, but also in parallel, I was interested in medicine, medical science. So this led me in a direction of studying medicine initially. However, due to all this immigration to different countries and due to events in our at our home country, of course, the studies were repeatedly interrupted. So I had to start 3 times from the beginning in each country, again from the beginning. So, but I didn't give up. I kept going and said, no, I really want to do this. I really felt like this was something where I saw myself. And then during my studies in Canada, I got in the direction of the medical research. So I got even more interested in that because I thought that it's not just like helping patients who are already sick, but actually trying to find out why they're sick in the first place, what is causing this disease, and trying to discover what lies behind in order to be able to address it and develop more effective therapies. So thinking like this led me into like from academia research, several years in Canada, then in Spain as well, and in between US, that I ended up then getting interested how these products are actually developed, not only discovered. And this made me accept a job in the industry. So when I came to Austria, I began working for a large biotech company, and this is where I learned how the business side of it works, and how it is possible to bring the ideas and results from the lab bench in an academia lab, how to develop it and bring it to make it a product that can actually be someday on the market. And in 2011 or end of 2011, I started preparing a plan for my own biotech company, which I then founded in 2012. I led it for almost 11 years before selling it to a large pharmaceutical company. Then I stayed with this pharmaceutical company for a year or two. And finally, I'm now like preparing for the next stage and taking some breaks, so to say, to recover. So this is like in a very short summary of how I came where I am now.
I will ask you something else now, Sanja. When you were 10-year old, so now looking at how rich your life is, and this is just like in a few short notes that you have summarized it, and we are speaking no more than 10 minutes, and there's like a lot of richness and colors in your life. When you were 10 years old, so looking back, so what were you thinking? What was your wish? When you were a kid, what was your wish to be, or to fulfill, or to find, or have within your life?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I have to say, in my case, it was when I was only 4 years old. It was really strange, and I still remember that event. Actually, I don't remember it so well myself, but my aunt told me how this happened. I used to be a very quiet child, and I like to sit somewhere in a corner and be lost in my thoughts. And I was dreaming something, imagining, whatever. And one day she found me. I was so quiet, even more quiet than normal. And she was asking, Sanja, what are you thinking about? And I couldn't even speak properly. I was still a kid. So, but I managed to explain that I was imagining that someday I'm going to discover something that's going to help a lot of people. And she thought, wow, that sounds so ambitious. And she took it as a like just a sweet little kind of thing from a child. She didn't take it seriously. Okay, children like to dream and so on. And then it was like some, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, when she realized, wow, that's where she really ended up. So I think I was somehow always feeling like I wanted to go in the direction to because I'm very interested in how things work, how our life works, how our brain works, how our immune system works, how does it happen that we get sick, and I think this was always driving me. I was very curious right from the early age.
Thank you for sharing this. So our daughter is not 3 yet, so she's going to be 4 soon. So I heard that the imagination of kids at this point of time, of this age, is very, very strong. I'm talking to some other moms and their kids at same age, and the kids share so many stories. It's unbelievable. So I will definitely pay attention more and more to what she has to say.
I
This was
think
such a
it's very important. Sorry, I have to add, it's very important because it happens very often that children have a certain really drive or passion for something, and they feel their talents. And then when they're like starting to grow up, the adults tell them, oh, that cannot be possible. Oh, that's too hard. Better find some job that pays you some salary, whatever, or better don't do this. That's only for like men or something, or we don't have financial means to make it happen, or whatever. There's always something. And then they absorb this from their environment and they don't dare to do what they actually could do. So I think it's very important to listen to your children and encourage them instead of finding all the reasons why it may not be possible.
And then how was it for you, Sanya? So when you were growing up, so were you having more, yes, go for it, do it, or it was more like settle down, it is what it is, so how was it for you?
Well, I mean, on one side, my parents were very encouraging, and yeah, they did not try to influence me too much which direction I go. They just wanted to make sure whatever I do, I'm happy with it. But the problem was that in our country at that time, there was very little conversations or very, very little in the news even about research. So even if some research was happening somewhere at some institutions, it was not at the same scale in the same way as it's happening today, and especially not in the scale that it was happening like at that time in our environment compared to maybe US or some other bigger countries. So I always thought that research is something that happens only like in the United States, because I heard of like Nikola Tesla and I thought, okay, he went to the States to become a researcher. So I didn't think, during my like school years, and so this idea didn't come to me that I could do some research. I just thought, okay, I have to follow these standard programs of the high school, and then the closest to that came the medical school, and then I thought, okay, I started studying medicine. But it was in Canada that I discovered my love for research, because it was, so to say, by some coincidence that I ended up meeting a person who introduced me to medical research, and I got extremely excited, passionate about it. And then I remembered, oh, but this is what I originally wanted to do, and now I found it here. So yeah, life sometimes works that way.
Sanja, knowing what you know today and knowing that our children are now growing up with knowing that research doesn't only happen in the US, it can happen anywhere with the technology that we have at our hands. What would what would you like to be now? So if you would be, thinking about all these possibilities that you have today, so what else would you like to achieve? So what else is there for you, Sanja, that you say, oh, okay, I want to do these and these and these, because there are so much now that I know and see and hear, and all these stories that we share and all these, things that we read, they do influence us. And then we see, oh, that's possible. So even though I don't know if I'm a woman, even though I come from the, Sarajevo, small city, and so on. So we get inspired by these stories, and then we tend to dream even bigger and higher and even more. So what is there that it's not for you yet, so that you feel like, okay, that's the next star for me?
Well, what I feel now, what I would like to do is, so to say, from all these things that I learned, try to bring it to the like next phase or next level, which is help others develop their full potential, because there are a lot of young people, young scientists, or even like older, doesn't matter which age, which may be feeling somehow stuck somewhere in their career step and don't know how to go forward, or they maybe have a certain great idea, but they are not sure if it may work or how to bring it forward and so on. So one of the areas of my work would be to connect with these people and to help them bring this forward. And on the other side, I would like to spend time or invest time into connecting scientists from different parts of the science, like to create like a really multidisciplinary network of the organizations, of the people that could together tackle some of the bigger challenges in the science, which are very difficult to be resolved when we are only working on them within one single company, for example, because there's like pockets of knowledge in so many different areas and all around the world. And if we could connect them and work more effectively together, like much faster speed of the discoveries and progress would be possible. So I think this is something that will put some efforts to see how this could work.
Yeah, I look forward to see what's next. And I'm already thinking about a few people that I would like to introduce you to, and some of them that are also in the research field and that I have also interviewed on this channel. So I'm looking forward to follow up on that one.
Thank you.
Sanja, may I ask you, when you started your company, was it something that you were like, I can do it? Of course, I can do it. I will learn along the way. Or have you had any, what were your challenges, or what were your, sort of doubts or fears and the considerations that you had in mind, be it, about financial or, I don't know, support system or community or the market? So, or you said like, I'm going to do it no matter what.
You mean when I was starting the company in
Yes,
Austria?
yes, yes.
This is like, yeah, it was not easy for sure. It was, I tend to say, for me, that was more difficult, challenging, and more scary than when I was in the war, when people are literally shooting at me, and when I had to look how I really saved my life. I think it was extremely difficult because I did not know any language. I did not have any team yet assembled. I did not have any network, and I was never a businessman in that sense. Like, I worked always for some other companies where I was employed. So there were a lot of things that I had to learn, and I also didn't have any backup. It was not a spin-off of the university. It was not a spin-off from another company. It was really what people like to say, one-woman show. So a lot of people thought it was absolutely crazy, and why do I even dare try something like that? Because I was like, even if you just start any kind of business, it could be just like a coffee shop or something, it takes a huge amount of effort. But starting a biotech company, which is so full of regulations and so many extra things on top, it was really like, I felt like I was starting to go to the Mount Everest alone without any people or the equipment. So it was definitely a big challenge. But despite all of that, like, thinking logically that this was like very difficult and with a very small chance that it may work, on the other hand, I had such a huge passion and motivation and inspiration for this project that I wanted to develop, because I really felt this is something that needed to be done. And what I was interested is in the skin diseases, especially the ones that affect a lot of teenagers, young adults, which is this acne, which can come in many different forms and very severe cystic forms. And there's so many people who suffered for many, many years, even until like late 40s, early 50s, because of that. And it affects not only the skin, but also very much everything, how they feel as humans. And so, and it leaves very deep emotional wounds, because these people had to deal with lots of societal rejection and bullying in the school and difficulties finding partners, and so on, and affecting their self-esteem and confidence and so on. So this really drew my interest, because I thought, I cannot believe like we are in the 21st century and we still don't have like a solution that can really work for all patients, and really some treatment that can do something more than what is currently available on the market. And this kind of passion and this kind of interest in this topic somehow gave me the strength and led me and helped me manage my fears, so to say, and manage all these challenges, and simply start solving them one by one. So of course I had to build slowly my network. I had to learn German, improve it much, how to say, bring it to the level where I could start communicating with people. Although English was helpful in the beginning, because in science we use a lot of English, and I continued using it a lot also during my work at the company. And we also had lots of international collaboration, so it was very helpful. But for dealing like with Austrian authorities or with people in Austria who didn't know English, it was still very important to learn German as well, to be able to also understand what people say. Um, so it took some time, of course, and the other thing was like a financially how to manage, because biotech companies take millions and millions of euros before they start making some money. So that was also very challenging, but I was really very grateful to the people who supported me, because I had like, after like, I think it was after 3 or 4 years, we organized like fundraising among friends and colleagues, and so people who knew me from my previous company, or like friends of the friends, and so on. They all chipped in some smaller sums of money, but it was extremely meaningful, because then later when we looked for the larger sums, this was very encouraging to the next investors, who realized that there are so many people who believed in me and this project, and this was kind of very good starting or for how to continue. So I don't know, I can tell you much more, but I don't want to take too much place now. I can just say that it took several years, of course, until things started going, and it took time to build a team, to get the right people on the board. And nothing in life happens, of course, as when you work on it alone. So it, of course, involved a lot of additional people and inside of the company, as well as a very large network that it gradually built. So we had like advisors and supporters and collaborators, like I think everywhere from United States, Europe, China, I don't know, any kind of place in the world. We were working together, and yeah, so I think it all together somehow helped make things happen.
I was listening this very carefully, Sanja, because I have acne for my whole life, and I'm 36 and I still have it.
Oh, really? But you
Yes.
actually look a very mild case to me, or I
Now
didn't
it's
even
a
know
mild
this.
case. Now it's a mild case after becoming a mom. My skin improved, but in during teenagers it was, and starting at the university it was like I had this picture in my head, all my whole face red. Right, as you said, it influences everything, and you feel you and if you are the only one in the family, right, it feels like it's like a curse on you. Everybody else has, clean skin, and then everybody, then I come from a very small town, it's a village, it's not the town, it's a village, and then everybody looks at you, and you feel like I don't want to go out of home because my whole face is red. You cannot I can not cover my
Yes,
face. It makes you very, very vulnerable. Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. We were receiving letters, messages
Yeah.
from the acne patients around the world, and they were telling us their stories. And
Yeah.
some of these were so heart-wrenching. Like, I know, like, in some of the
Yeah.
most difficult times, I would just read these stories and get so much more inspired. Oh, we have to make this work, because it's really a big challenge for a lot of people.
It is. It's a global, and you
Mm,
just feel like, okay, who
mm,
do I trust in this whole system? So it's a very
yes.
it's a big topic, Sanja. It's a
Yes, very big and very complex topic,
yeah.
because it's like a very complex interplay of the hormones, of the bacteria,
Yes.
of the immune system, and finding the right way to treat it and how to
Yeah.
balance all these factors. This is really the key.
So I'm really amazed with what you did. So it's mind blowing. So what you have achieved. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing. So your way coming to Austria, you build up your own company. So I think the ecosystem of startup and business ecosystem has, I would say, improved over the last 10 years. I think I have the feeling, I don't have my own company, but I have the feeling that 10 years ago and now it's much better. I'm also interviewed some people that are supporting people that want to start their own first company. So with answering all the questions, with introducing them to the community, with supporting them with the fundraising. So I believe it's been improved, right? So there's more, people that can, and there's more companies that have been started, right? So it's much better than years before, right?
I think it's getting better. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but it's getting better. I'm noticing actually what makes me hopeful that it will continue in that direction, that there are also now more of the startup funding funds or
Yeah.
investors interested in funding startups. When I was starting, it was extremely difficult to find investors in Austria. And most biotech companies were going fundraising in other countries to bring the investors here. And now I see that they're starting like family offices, business angels, associations, Invest Austria. There's also Austrian Biotech Association, which
Yeah.
didn't exist at a time, where the CEOs of all biotech companies in Austria come together every couple of months to discuss all the issues in the field, and together bringing the
Mm.
initiatives forward and so on. So all of this is helping building this ecosystem together with investors and with biotech companies themselves. And I see that there's a lot of potential for the future.
That's great to hear. Sanja, before we close for today, what is there something that you would like to share that we have missed today? So about anything, or of course about the messages that you want to give to people considering to moving to Austria or considering moving abroad. What are the things that helped you thrive along the way?
Yeah. But because this is the like a program in general for all people coming to Austria or to any new country, I think some of the topics are very similar. What I can say from my experience and from what I've seen, how like different people to different cultures and countries, what I would share or want people to maybe think about is how crucial it is learning and adapting to a new culture. Like if we go from like, I don't know, whatever country it is, and we're going somewhere else and we expect everything to be the same as where we come from, we are going to be severely disappointed. We are not going to be happy. And we will be just complaining all the time how good it was where we come from. However, if we are open and we say, okay, I'm in a new place, let me see what this place has that's different in my country, but that might be potentially better than in my country. Not everything that we come from home is necessarily good. It's just we got used to it. So we think that's the best it can be because we are more used to it. So I would say it's very important to be curious about the new culture, to try to learn as much as possible about it. So wherever I went, I tried to learn language as soon as possible. Even if people around me could speak English or could speak my native language, I still wanted to learn also their language because that's the best way to connect with people inside of that culture. The other thing is it's very important to maintain own, how you say, self-confidence, belief in yourself, because there will be always challenges and there will be always some people who will be telling you, oh, it's not possible here, out of zillion of reasons they may give you. But it's really important not to get discouraged. And if it doesn't work through this door, you try the left or right or some other way. So things will work out for sure if we just don't give up and just try to do them. So it's important to be patient, but focused and dedicated, and to know really what you wish to achieve. What is it that's important, and how to deal with it. And also not to get discouraged by comments. Like I know in different cultures, there are people who may simply misunderstand certain things, like the way we behave or the way we say or don't say something. It's all just a matter of perceptions. But when people get to know each other, of course, all of this falls apart because then they get to know you as a person. So I would also advise try as much as possible, get to know the people who live there, join different organizations, do different works. Like when I was in different countries, I always tried to get involved, whether it's some sport organization, whether it was music, whether it was, I don't know, I was volunteering in different places, in children's hospitals, in elderly homes, wherever opportunity I had to contribute, to meet people, to learn a bit about culture, language, I always took it. And this really helped me adjust much faster and also meet so many great people. And now I have a huge network all over the world. Like every country I go, I have a group of people I'm always happy to meet and connect with.
Thank you, Sanja. That was very powerful what you have shared. Before we close up this interview, I usually ask my guests what do they read or any book that they would like to recommend to the audience.
Whoa, I read a lot and thousands of books that I have in my Kindle library. But maybe one which I'm reading right now. This is the book I would recommend to all people who are creative, whether they are artists, whether they're scientists, whether they're planning to create something else, I don't know, whatever. It's called Big Magic: How to Live a Creative Life and Let Go of Your Fear. And the reason why I'm reading it is because I was telling a friend recently that I would like to write a book about innovation. And she said, oh, yeah, maybe before you write it, you should read this book because it may be helpful. And then I realized, wow, it is like really interesting book because a lot of things that they describe there this is how I also experienced them. And I think it might be helpful for people, especially coming to new country. They might be thinking what they want to create here or do here. And it might be encouraging, I think, from that point of view.
Well, I've noted it down and I will link it for sure in the comments and in the section of this YouTube video. Thank you, Sanja, so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on this podcast or interview. It was my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Sanja. Thank you, everyone, for listening and listening to Sanja's story. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.